McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz, Apple, Nike. What do these companies have in common? When they're selling something, when they're creating their marketing campaigns, it's all around a product, something physical that they're selling. But what if you're not selling a product? What if you're selling a service, such as graphic or web design services? How do you go about marketing services? That's what today's episode of Resourceful Designer is all about. So let's get to it. Resourceful Designer, episode 322, Designing Success, Applying Selling the Invisible to Your Graphic Design Business.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now your host. If he had it to do all over again, he would slow down and savor it. Mark Descote.
I mean, wouldn't you? And it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. I mean, it could be life, school, vacations, friend, family, work, even a good meal. Don't you think back at certain things, certain points of your life, certain events, and wish that if you can go back, you would just slow down and savor it? Man, I know I do. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. Anyway, in today's episode of the podcast, I want to discuss a book that has greatly influenced the way I've run my business. And that book is Selling the Invisible, A Field Guide to Modern Marketing by Harry Beckwith. Now, I know even though the title says Modern Marketing, this book was written originally back in 1997, but the principles within apply no matter what era it is. And in fact, they do have a newer version than the one I have that probably has been expanded to cover some more modern times. I still read the 1997 version. Now, I first discovered this book out of all places in Mac Addict magazine. Do you remember that magazine? I mean, back in the day, there was Mac User, Mac Life, and Mac Addict. And Mac Addict was my favorite out of all of the Mac magazines. I don't know, it just had a different way of communicating, and I just loved it. And I was so sorry when they stopped publishing it. Anyways, there was an article in that magazine that talked about this new book that it would come out from Harry Beckwith, who was a master marketer, specifically on selling services as opposed to selling products. And I remember I was working at the print shop at the time, and I actually asked the manager if we can get a copy of this book, if I can order it, because I'd like to use it. I was the unofficial marketing manager for the print shop. I was kind of the person in charge of creating advertising and doing the marketing for the shop. So I asked if I can get this book, and I devoured it. And I still have the copy that they bought. I got to keep it. And I tell you, I read it every few years because there's just so much to glean from it that talks about clients. It talks about the emotional. It talks about the mental part of it. It talks about the subconscious thinking that clients do whenever they're shopping for a service. And I think you should get this book and read it. Add it to your library of must-have books for your design business. Now, if you want to know the copy that I have or just find them online, you could use the link resourcefuldesigner.com/sellingtheinvisible and pick up your copy, whether it's an ebook or a physical copy. You won't regret it. But today, I want to kind of just give you a summary of what's in the book. I'm not going to go over everything because I think it's something you have to read for yourself, but I will give you a summary of what you can find in this book. Now, imagine you're in the business of making things look amazing. Yeah, I know, not that far a stretch. I mean, after all, you are in the design industry. Well, Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith is, let's call it your secret sauce for people like us. It's all about marketing services, like I said, not just physical products, because it's a lot easier to market a physical product when you can show the client, when they can touch and hold it and experience it before buying. But with a service, the client has to buy something or at least commit to something before seeing anything. And that's a lot more difficult to do. And in this book, Selling the Invisible, a field guide to modern marketing, Beckwith focuses on strategies for promoting these intangible services. He explores the unique challenges of marketing services, and he emphasizes on the importance of understanding and meeting the often unspoken needs of clients. He also stresses the significance of building trust, of creating memorable experiences, and effectively communicating the value of your services. Now, this book isn't specifically written for graphic designers. It encompasses all service industries, but I'm going to kind of just quickly break down the 6 key points in his book and how they do apply to us as designers. So the first key point is show, don't tell, or you can emphasize value over features. It's not enough to just list off your services. You've all seen this on websites before where you talk about, or a designer a list, we do logos, we do brochures, we do business cards, we do posters, and they list everything they can do. Well, that doesn't really help you sell anything. According to Beckwith, he says you got to showcase the magic, not just talk about it. It doesn't help to say that you are a great logo designer if you can't show off a portfolio that shows you can create great logos. Let your designs do the talking. Show potential clients how your services can solve their specific problems, and it even enhance their brand. Now, I don't know many designers who don't do this part right, but we are in a visual space. That's what we do. We create visuals. So it only makes sense to showcase our work through visual design and not just lists of what we can do to help a client. Now, key number 2 is to be a trusty sidekick. In other words, build trust and credibility. I mean, trust is everything. I've talked about it many times before on this show. And it's especially important in the design space. Beckwith hammers on this for all service industries, but it's no different for you. It's actually more important for you. You see, your clients need to trust that you'll make their visions come to life. So whenever you're promoting or marketing yourself, that's what you have to market, is that trust. But how do you market trust? Well, you showcase your testimonials. You should be reaching out to your clients and getting testimonials. I make a point after every project to send out an email and ask for a testimonial. Not everybody gives them, but I have a folder where I put every testimonial I receive. And whenever I need something, I can add it to a website or whatever I'm doing. It's social proof. It lets people know that others trust you, so maybe I can trust you as well. So show those testimonials. Flaunt your experiences and let people know that you're the real deal. Don't just say that you design logos or show logos. Talk about your logo design. Talk about your poster design. Talk about your website design. Show people that you know what you're talking about. Now, trust is paramount in any service-oriented business, but especially so when it comes to graphic and web design. As Beckwith states, trust building can be applied to demonstrate your reliability, your expertise, and your commitment to delivering high-quality designs. If you can show trust in your marketing, you've got a much better chance at converting clients. Now, key number 3 is give them something to remember. Create a memorable experience. Have you ever noticed how the best experiences in life stick with you? Think about my intro in this episode. Those things that you wish you can go back and savor, those experiences, they stick with you. Well, Beckwith says to try to create these memorable moments with your clients. And this is great advice for graphic designers. Make sure that the whole journey from brainstorming to final delivery, it's smooth, it's enjoyable, and it's something unforgettable for the clients. Make sure you give your clients exceptional customer service. Make sure you show them a great portfolio of outstanding work that they could admire before hiring you. And make sure that everything from start to finish goes smoothly so that the client enjoys the experience and wants to work with you again. The better the experience, something that they can remember as being good, will make somebody want to come back to you even more. Now, key factor number 4 is mind reader mode, or understanding a client's needs. Sometimes, and you've probably experienced this before, clients don't even know what it is that they want. Sometimes they have to wait till see it to know if that's it. Now, even though that can be frustrating, that's sometimes how this business of ours works. And Beckwith, in his book, goes into great lengths on tuning into these unspoken needs and how you can ask the right questions, dive deep, figure out what your client's goals are, and then let your designs be the answer to their unspoken wishes. Now, as a designer, you can do this through conducting client interviews, asking very probing questions. I have a great episode on 50 questions you can ask a client before every design project, which I'll link to in the show notes for this episode. And make sure that you are actively listening to what your client says. And this will ensure that your designs meet their specific goals and their expectations, or possibly even exceed those expectations. Because a lot of times, the client doesn't actually know what they want. Now, key point number 5 is be the design whisperer, or develop effective communication. Now, Beckwith is very big on communication in his book. And if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know how important I find communication is as well. That's something that rings true for any graphic design business. Clear communication is key to success. And you do that by making sure your clients get what you're saying about concepts, about revisions, about timelines, and about every other step of the project. Don't leave room for guesswork here. You have to communicate everything very clearly so your client understands. Effective communication with clients about every step of a project is essential for a successful outcome. And the 6th point that Beckwith covers in his book is play the long game. Focus on long-term relationships. I've said it many times on this podcast. Building relationships is the name of this game. And Beckwith knows it, just like any service industry, and graphic design is no exception. It means delivering consistently awesome work. Keep the lines of communication open and aim for repeat business and for referrals. That's how you grow a business. You want your clients to come back and you want your clients to tell others about you. That's how we prosper. Now, I know I touched on these 6 key points very quickly here, and I didn't want to go too much in depth because I really want you to read the book. That's what the whole point of this episode was, is to read this book. And I'm not just talking about this. In fact, I believe this book so much that last year, the Resourceful Designer community, we had a retreat. We've done a retreat 2 years in a row now where we get together to meet each other in person. Well, the first year, I wasn't able to make it, but I sent everybody at the retreat a copy of this book. That's how important I think it is. I want you to think of Selling the Invisible, a field guide to modern marketing, as kind of like your playbook for not just selling design services, but selling the experience, the trust, and the promise of killer value. By following the principles found in Beckwith's book, you can actually refine your marketing strategies, enhance client relationships, and ultimately thrive in this competitive design industry. As I said, when I first read this book, it completely changed my thinking on how to market a service-based business. And I've reread this many times over the years. Because ideas fade, things start to drift, and every time I read it, it helps me get back on track on the message I want to put forth and how I want to present myself to my clients. So once again, the link, if you want to get a copy of the book for yourself, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/sellingtheinvisible. Do that as all one word. And that'll redirect you to Amazon where you can purchase the book. And just to be 100% clear here, I am an affiliate with Amazon, so I do make a commission on any qualified purchases that you may make. Now, I would love to know if you've already read this book, or if you do end up getting it and you decide to read it. Please leave me a comment at episode 322 of the podcast and let me know what you thought of it. Let's keep the conversation going. So that's it for this episode. If you want to join me for more great conversations, you could join the Resourceful Designer community at resourcefuldesigner.com/community. We talk every day in there about all sorts of topics around the design industry. And we would love to have your voice included. So thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best with your design business and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.